Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Rochester Public Schools and civility. Some of us who've been reporting about the numbers of cases of COVID versus the necessity for the masks versus the lockdown in Rochester versus how much COVID money came in and when it arrived and how it helped to purchase policy that was really done without medical research. We tracked down $18 million and we found that I discovered some links at the state office in Minnesota that determined that the expenditures to Rochester were in the $18 million range. Dr. Peckel then revealed on the Andy Brownell show on KROC AM/FM that the expenditures before his tenure at the schools were closer to $20 million. $20 million had already been spent before Dr. Peckel even arrived in our community. He has a total of about 38, and that additional money is still yet to be spent. We don't know where it's being kept. We don't know who has the power to spend it. And in spite of being sort of teased and berated in meetings, we really don't know nickel line item how that money's been spent, apart from a story written in the Rochester newspaper regarding most of the expenditures going to pay for teachers' salaries, wages, and benefits. I don't really understand that at a time when the bathrooms were lacking soap and running water in at least Willow Creek Junior High and possibly other schools as well. At the height of the pandemic, children can't wash their hands after taking a shit. The issue here, right, is civility, right? I just used a colorful word, okay? But is that word less civil than what's actually occurring? At the height of the pandemic, if you don't have soap and water in the bathrooms, that's pretty ridiculous. So Peckel wants you to have your kids wear a mask. How many children have fled the Rochester Public Schools? In the first year of this nonsense, it was 1,000 that we know of. So far this year, it's been nearly 700. So we're about halfway through the school year, and we're already at double the attrition rates than we were the year before. Meanwhile, the Rochester Public Schools losing $8,000 per pupil because they see them as mere funding widgets. Whenever they tell you that they're on the side of the students, they're worth $8,000 per head. Those kids are leaving, and we're told by their own numbers that half of those children have left the Rochester Public Schools for surrounding smaller school communities. I have my ideas about why that's the case. I think that parents would like their children to feel safe when they go to school and not be beaten on the school buses, not be dragged by their hair across the playgrounds. I think that mothers and fathers and taxpayers and community members have the expectation, rightly, to think that your child is going to be treated with some dignity and respect in a public school. Another half of those students left, their parents, they actually moved out of Rochester or they moved out of the state. In those cases as well, you might see some of those attrition rates, say they moved out of Rochester or Olmsted County, they moved to Byron, a safer community where our own police officers and firefighters actually prefer to live. Sadly, for those of us in Rochester, I'd like to have those people as my neighbors in my community. We had a previous chief of police who didn't even want to live in Olmsted County. He lived over the county lines. That's how he felt about our community. So who's being civil? Who's being uncivil? We'd like to know what our money's being spent on. We'd like to see line by line, and in a recent school board meeting, they said, all that data is available online. Well, can you drop a link for us? Because quite a few people who are smarter than me, they're really like some math genius level people, are pouring through your information. They can't find the data. And we just would like to know. We're all looking. Would you please just drop the receipts of what you're spending this money on? You're $23 million in the hole. You need a new tax levy on Rochester before the old one has expired. You're just spending money hand over fist. None of this stuff is free. Oh, by the way, I read in the paper that you've hired some diversity consultants. Whoopee. Whoopee. Rochester and Minnesota people are the most welcoming and long-suffering people there are. We welcome people from all over the world. We have a plethora of cultures in this town that we celebrate. Please, please don't tell us that we're bad people. Don't tell us that we're uncivil. Some of us are trying to use words. I remember when the lefties would say, oh, those who make peaceful change impossible make violent revolution inevitable. That's what the lefties said. Let's do better, Rochester.